The Guardian.
Hello everyone, AC Jimbo here, unwinding after another gruelling season of podcasting. Bit more cream over there, producer Ben. Ooh, that's the spot. Anyway, we promised you some audio treats over the close season, so here, for your aural pleasure, is a documentary all about the greatest footballer you've probably never heard of.
I mean, if George Best was football's first pop star, Robbie was football's first rock star, without a doubt. Mercurial, irresistible, unstoppable.
He was a completely unusual player. Brilliant, dangerous, fun.
Hello, I'm Ian McIntosh, and this is the Ballad of Robin Friday. Now, if you're under the age of 35 and you're not a fan of the Welsh rock band Super Furry Animals, you're probably thinking, who the hell is Robin Friday? And you know what? That's an entirely reasonable question. There's every chance you've never seen Robin Friday play football, or spent an afternoon watching his YouTube clips, or retweeted a vine of one of his goals. And that's because, during the brief period he played in the mid-1970s, Robin Friday didn't leave much of a trace. He never played at the top level. He didn't represent his country, and the only thing he ever won was promotion to England's third tier. In total, he played only 4 seasons of professional football, scoring an unremarkable 52 goals. But in spite of this, Robin Friday still left an indelible mark in the minds of many fans, and not just at Reading and Cardiff, the 2 teams he represented. He was a sublime player, blessed with skill, flair, and an eye for goal, but he was equally as well known for his off-field antics. Yes, Robin Friday was a true hellraiser. Sex, drugs, rock and roll. He was into all 3, often at the same time, and at a rate that would have made George Best think about calling it a night. It's this combination of brilliance and recklessness that made Robin Friday into such a folk hero. This is his story, and here to guide us through is a voice you heard right at the start of the show.
Okay, my name is Paolo Hewitt, and I wrote a book about Robin Friday called The Greatest Footballer You Never Saw.
You'll also be hearing a lot from this chap.
Right, I'm Roger Titford. I've been a Reading supporter since the mid-1960s, and I've written quite a bit about Reading Football Club and its players down the years.
OK, let's get started.
Act 1, where Robin goes to Borstal and discovers football and gets a spike up his arse.
Like all true working-class heroes, Robin Friday's life began in humble circumstances. You'll hear from Robin's brother Tony in a mo, but first, here's Paolo Hewitt.
Well, it was a very working-class background. He grew up in a place called Acton, which is out in West London, heading towards Heathrow Airport. He grew up on a council estate where his brother Tony said to me there were only 2 things to do on that estate, either have a giggle or die.
All we ever done was play football as children from the age of about 4 or 5. My name is Tony Friday. I'm the twin brother of Robin. Our dad used to take us to kick a ball about over the park. And then obviously we'd play at school. Basically our life revolved around football, to be honest with you.
And it was a poor family, but a very loving family. Both boys were kind of doted on, especially by the dad. So a lot of poverty and quite rough upbringing.
That's what I was trying to say to you. It was the norm for people on the estate where we live. Most of them got in trouble, with the police and ended up in prison.
Robin fell in, with a crowd. He went to Borstal when he was 15. Basically for breaking into a toy shop with him and his mates. And the police caught him walking down the street with one of those small coppers helmets on, like kids wear. I think they thought he was taking the piss. He didn't do very well at school, but he was very good at cricket. And he was very good at football. In fact, he was a very good goalkeeper before he became a brilliant striking midfield player. So he was very athletic. Yeah, he was also asthmatic. But he loved other things as well. He loved rock and roll, and he loved being different.
He was more outlandish in the way his dress and things. He'd walk about in Afghan coats and that, and when people have never done that sort of thing, like that's the sort of like as if he was a pop star or something.
Yeah, so I'm very popular with the girls. Like to drink. Got into drugs early on, but nothing too heavy. Just what a lot of working class teenage boys do. He went into Borstal when he was 16, 17 for this sweet shop thing. And he joined the football team there. And while he was playing for the football team there, somebody at the Borstal had a connection with Hayes Football Club. The talent scout came down, saw Robin playing, signed him straight away. So when he came out of Borstal, he started playing for Hayes for a couple of years.
It's around this time that something integral to the legend of Robin Friday took place. A bit like how Batman decided to start fighting crime after witnessing the death of his parents. While he was playing for non-league Hayes, Friday supplemented the money he earned from football by picking up manual labour jobs. Paolo Hewitt continues the story.
He was an asphalter, so he put asphalt on roofs. And one day he was up on a roof, and beneath him was a square with concrete, and they'd put these small spikes into the concrete for it to set. And Robin slipped. He fell onto one of these spikes. So he fell about 20 feet and then hit one of these spikes, which went up his arse. And it missed his heart by about, 2 centimetres or something ridiculous. He was rushed to hospital. And within 3 months, he was back on a football field. I mean, they said they hadn't seen anything like it, so it was quite incredible. That kind of experience would have taught Robin, you know what, life's for living. You live every day you can, because who knows when you're going to fall off a roof. And he was so close to death, that I think he just he threw all the cards up in the air and he said, "That's it. I'm just going for it."
Act 2, in which Robin scores the greatest goal ever and gets his cock out.
It was shortly after this Damascus moment that Robin Friday's football career really started taking off.
Hayes played Reading in the FA Cup, and Charlie Hurley, who had made his name at Sunderland, spotted Robin, and he scouted him for about a month, and then he signed him up. And Robin's debut was on January the 31st, 1974, I believe. It was quite funny because after Robin had joined the club, Charlie kind of got to know all about him while he was in the reserves. And after about a month, he called him into his office and he said to him, "Robin, I'm going to put you in the first team on Sunday. We're playing Northampton. You're in the first team." And Robin said, "Oh, that's great, boss. That's great. I won't drink, fight, and I won't go with any women between then and the game." And Charlie said, "Robin, you can lie to me once, not 3 times."
Despite already having earned a reputation for being something of a party animal, Friday quickly established himself in the Reading first team. It wasn't long before he became a fan favourite too, his ferocious playing style and flair for the dramatic finding favour on the terraces. At this point, I should be pointing you towards an online clip of Robin Friday wreaking havoc and causing chaos among opposition defences. But this was the early 70s, and you just didn't get TV cameras at 4th Division games. Fortunately, though, Roger Titford did see Robin play.
Robin Friday was energetic, enthusiastic. He loved to get stuck in. He was undisciplined. He dressed in an undisciplined way. He didn't wear protective shin pads.
I've got to know Tommy Youlden, who was the captain of the team, and he adored Robin. So he said if we had a difficult away game, the first name I'd put on the list was Robin Friday, because he would give you everything. He was a warrior,
He had an innate ability to dribble, to take people on, to beat them with guile, not with speed. He was rough. He would push people over. He would be aggressive against defenders who were expected to be more aggressive than he was.
Look at some of the reports in the book about his skill at Reading. Look at him beating 4 players at a time. Look at him up against the corner flag, one fullback one side of him, one fullback the other, kicking his legs to bits because he's got no shin pads on. So he plays the ball against the corner flag, lets it run through his legs, turns, and both fullbacks crash into each other. That kind of skill. I mean, he was like Maradona on the pitch from, I can tell.
But most of all, it was an almost schoolboy-like way of playing football. Total enthusiasm and a desire to beat people with the ball, to dribble past them, shoot and score. So he played centre-forward for Reading.
And what do all great centre-forwards do? They score. In Robin Friday's case, absolute thunder bastards. There's one in particular that has become a key part of the legend of Robin Friday. Let's set the scene. We're in Friday's second season at Reading, so it's 1976. The club are chasing promotion to the second division and have a vital game against rivals Tranmere. Reading are up 2-0, but things are tense. They need one more to put the game to bed. So Reading right back Gary Peters collects a ball from his goalkeeper and spots Friday in space, about 30 yards out, or 40 or 50, depending on whose account you hear. Anyway, Peters lofts a long ball towards the striker, and in one fluid motion, Friday brings the ball down onto his chest before spinning and unleashing a ferocious volley that blasted into the top corner. Roger Tipford was in the stadium that day.
What I remember of that goal live, as it were, was him chesting it down, then suddenly the ball arcing into the far corner of the net from quite a long distance, and there being, that half a second silence in the crowd before people realised that he'd scored, because it was just such a sudden thing to happen. It didn't look as though we had a chance of scoring at that moment, and then suddenly he'd somehow put the ball into the top corner of the net from a distance.
Reading won promotion to the third division at the end of the 75-76 season, propelled by Robin's dynamic play. He scored 21 goals that year and was at the peak of his powers. But his off-field antics were also at their pinnacle. As well as being known to the people of Reading as a goal-scoring hero, he was beginning to earn a reputation as the town's wild man. But, rather than clamping down on such errant behaviour, Friday's manager Charlie Hurley decided that the best way to deal with the player was to look the other way.
Charlie's attitude to Robin was, I don't want to know. As long as on that Saturday afternoon you're giving me everything and scoring goals, whatever you go up to during the week, I just don't want to know about it. Because Robin would show up for training with a black eye or carrying a plastic bag with his kit in and bottles of martini or whatever, and Charlie was like, I don't want to know. And all the players would moan, he didn't come for training 3 days running. Don't want to know. As long as he was doing it on the pitch, then he was fine,
Free to indulge in such wild shenanigans, Robin's debauchery became legendary. And it's this side of his life that people have tended to focus on. Sure, the Wonder Goals make for a nice backdrop, but it's this tale of the maverick player refusing to conform that seems to have elevated Robin Friday from footballer to folk hero. Ask anyone who knows anything about him for their favourite Friday story, and the chances are you'll get something like this.
For example, there was a pub called the Boar's Head in Reading, which I went to, and it was a complete, classic old English pub, sticky carpet and, all that kind of stuff. And he was banned from there 10 times, 10 times, man. Do you know what I mean? His mate met him there one time and said, it was winter, and he said he had this fur coat on, and, we sank about 10 pints and then went to this horrible club called Churchill's, which was above some shop in Reading. Where they incidentally, they had a little room to which Robin could take women into. They had a special Robin room. And he said we walked in there, and he went to the dance floor, took off his fur coat, and he was stark bollock naked apart from his hobnail boots, and just danced on the dance floor.
That's just a small drop in the ocean of the kind of trouble that Robin Friday got into.
That's broadcast journalist Ryan Bailey. He wrote an article about Robin Friday for Howler magazine.
There's stories of him turning up on away trips with in hotels with a swan under his arm for no reason. And apparently he had a trip where he was wearing regular slacks or pants, and he pulled the pockets out. Then he pulled out a certain appendage of his. Let's just say this trick was called the elephant.
You get the picture. Here was a guy whose lifestyle choices had more in common with Ozzy Osbourne than a professional sportsman. Robin Friday was a pill-popping, beer-swilling, swan-bothering wrecking ball of a man who was somehow still capable of producing moments of genius at 3 p.m. on a Saturday, no matter what he'd been up to the night before. Or was he?
I think quite a bit of that is myth and legend, actually.
That's Roger Titford again. Roger's one of the few Friday biographers who doesn't revel in the debauchery. In fact, he's not even sure that all of the stories, as fun as they are true. After all, where's the primary evidence for any of this stuff? The abduction of the Swan, the naked dancing, even the wonder goal against Tranmere. None of it was caught on camera. In his essay, The Legend of Robin Friday, Roger refers to Robin as the first true fantasy footballer.
Because so little is known of him when he played, there's almost complete lack of television footage. You've got the memories of, fans like myself, and there aren't, that many of us who will have seen lots of Robin Friday games. You're not talking, more than 2,000 or 3,000 genuine eyewitnesses that you can actually go to. And yet there's all this stuff out there about Robin Friday, so that what there is about Robin Friday, if you add up the totality of it, most of it will belong to that fantasy world. He's not a comic book hero, because he did really exist, but he's on the way to becoming a cipher, a fantasy, uprooted from his reality and from some of the events that, happened around him.
We'll talk a little later about how myth and reality coalesce in the Robin Friday story. For now, let's try and get a more complete picture of who Robin Friday really was. Here's a person who arguably knew him the best.
Hi, I'm Lisa Friday, and I'm Robin Friday's wife. Well, he was very intelligent. He always read the broadsheets. He was, he quite liked to be indoors and share dinners and do things. There was a completely another side to him from the one that's portrayed continuously about him being absolutely wild. And, he certainly had a wild side, but I think a lot of it, once he was out with the crowd or a crowd, a lot of it was showing off and bravado. And I think the more and more his wild man reputation built up, the more he played on it.
One such occasion when he did play on it was at their wedding. Here are Lisa's recollections of her big day with Robin Friday.
Okay, so the wedding was inevitably going to be wild. But I have quite a lot of elderly relatives, and it was a hot summer's day, so we were all... it was all outside. They were continuously making a large bowl of punch, and everybody was drinking that for a toast and things. But unbeknown to me, that they'd been putting LSD in it, spiking it with LSD. So all my elderly aunts and uncles were like tripping without realising it. They'd been putting LSD in it. I remember coming out of the church, and it was a Saturday afternoon, and he'd refused to play the match. And the supporters, instead of going to watch the match without him, had all come to the church. And we came out of the church, and there was the biggest sea of people you have ever seen, especially at a wedding. And it was just wild, completely wild. Well, I remember Robin and I went to Amsterdam for our honeymoon, and most of his friends, for a wedding present, had just given him a lump of dope. And I can remember when we got off the plane in Amsterdam, I can remember him saying to me, well, I don't want to get caught with all this dope. And I can remember him putting it in his mouth, thinking they didn't search us anyway, they weren't interested in doing anything like that. But he'd got chewing gum in his mouth, and I can remember the first half a day of my honeymoon was spent with him trying to get the dope untangled from the chewing gum.
Act 3, in which Robin goes to Cardiff and craps in Lawrence's kit bag. Maybe.
At the start of the 76-77 season, Reading's first in the third division, Robin's form started to trail off. He was 24, so if anything he should have been approaching his prime years, but it seemed that his hedonistic lifestyle was starting to have an impact on his performances. Here's Paolo Hewitt.
I think that summer, the summer of 76, which was a really long, hot summer, I think he crossed the line. And when he got back to Reading, he wasn't the fastest player, but he'd lost half a yard of pace. And he said to Charlie, he said, I'm not the same player, am I? And Charlie said to him, no, you're not. His lifestyle had become, antagonistic towards playing football. Basically, Cardiff came in for him and paid 30 grand for him, whereas the season before he'd been worth 100 grand, which shows you the speed of the deterioration. Charlie Hurley, God bless him, never told the Reading fans why. I mean, the place was in uproar. They had 2 sackloads of hate mail from fans saying, "What the hell have you done? How can you sell Robin Friday? This is a disgrace." And Charlie said, I could never tell him why, because I'd rather be known as the wank who sold Robin Friday than to tell him why I really sold him. So he went to Cardiff in January of 1977. His debut was against Fulham, who contained a player called Bobby Moore. He got onto the pitch against Fulham, went straight to Bobby Moore, grabbed his testicles, said hello, nice to meet you. Scored 2 goals and that game probably established his legend at Cardiff, where he's the all-time cult hero.
Friday's status as a Cardiff legend seems to be based more on his off-field antics than any feats of goal-scoring brilliance. During his time at the club, he only made 25 appearances, scoring just 7 goals. His most iconic moment came when he flicked the V sign at the keeper had just scored past. It's an image that crystallises the Robin Friday legend, football's number 1 bad boy, the ultimate anti-hero. Friday's final professional game came in October of 1977. It was his second season at Cardiff, and the match was against Brighton. Here's Ryan Bailey.
He was being marked by Mark Lawrenson. We all know him as the BBC pundit. He hadn't yet made his name as a Liverpool sensation back then. He was playing for Brighton. Friday basically stamped on his face, is what the report says, during a particularly nasty challenge. And he got sent off.
Went to the dressing room, found Lawrenson's bag and defecated in it. And then walked out of football. That was it.
And then he never appeared again. He disappeared from the ground. He disappeared from the club. He just didn't want to play anymore. He just one day just put a period. He put a full stop on his career and said, that's it. I'm out.
A spectacular exit stage left then, and pretty much the perfect way for Robin Friday to sign off his career. But it's not exactly true, as Roger Titford explains.
This has gone down as a story, and I believe it to be a myth, because there's absolutely no contemporary report of that happening at Brighton. Lawrenson's never mentioned it. There is a germ of truth in the story, I believe, which is that Robin Friday was actually substituted by his manager at a game at Mansfield, which historically is always a very tough place to go, genuinely tough. And he may have taken exception to the treatment he was given by the Mansfield defenders and crapped in their team bath.
Either way, Robin Friday was now out of professional football. He was 25 when he was last paid to kick a ball. So why did he walk away from the game? After his red card against Brighton, Robin apparently said that he was sick of people telling him what to do. And that sounds like a reasonable explanation for someone who from an early age had rebelled against authority. It also comes down to style. Robin Friday was a street footballer, all heart and hustle. Paolo Hewitt thinks that he was fundamentally unsuited to the more regimented style of play he was expected to stick to higher up the football pyramid.
Formations and diamonds and 4-4-2s and 4-3-3s and you couldn't do that with Robin because he was a free spirit and you could not tie him down like that.
Lisa Friday has a slightly different take. She says that the high supplied by football alone couldn't ever satisfy Robin.
It's never enough. Do you see what I mean? With Robin, where he went down the slippery slope with the drugs, maybe the adulation and the goal scoring and highs that normal people like you and I will probably never experience. You know, it's continuously looking for the next and the next high and the next high. That's the way I used to see it. Okay, I've done that and I've scored all those goals and all those people are screaming my name. But over time, he seemed to need a bit more than that. And then whatever that was, it would be a bit more than that again. Do you see what I mean? I sort of saw it how, like, with a flower opening and really opening and budding and being, and then just dying. For me, that's how I saw it, because I was there right through the highs, the lows, the euphoria, the psychosis, the desperation. Do you know what I mean?
Away from the limelight, Robin Friday drifted into obscurity. Reading fans tried to get him to come out of retirement, but he refused. He returned to Acton and went back to working with his brother Tony. But the need to get high was still there. In the 1980s, Robin was sent to prison for impersonating a police officer so he could confiscate drugs. Around this period, he bounced around a lot. He lived with his parents for a time. Then he was given an apartment by a housing association that supplied accommodation for those suffering from mental health or substance issues. In December of 1990, Robin was found dead. He'd died of a heart attack that was thought to have been caused by a heroin overdose. He was 34 years old. His legend lives on, though. In fact, it's probably fair to say that he's more well known now than ever.
You know, there are bands who now write songs about Robin Friday. You know, I've got 4 of them. People keep sending me these, I'm in a band, we've written a song about Robin Friday.
That's true. There's a slew of YouTube videos uploaded by bands singing about Robin Friday, including this one by the 253 Boys. Robin Friday had the skill of Matt Le Tissier, the temperament of Joey Barton, and the social life of pre-sobriety Russell Brand. In this age of selfies and Twitter, of agents and advisors, of sponsors, fitness coaches and sports psychologists, we'll almost certainly never see another player like him. He's probably the only lower league player who'll ever have a Hollywood movie made about his life. And yes, that really is happening. The legend of Friday lives forever, even if some of his legend is, well, not exactly true. The Ballad of Robin Friday was originally broadcast on Howler Radio. It was written and produced by Matthew Nelson and presented by me, Ian McIntosh. Football Weekly Presents is edited by Ben Green for The Guardian. Thanks for listening.